It's our turn, episode number 53, Games with Food. In this episode, Sarah and I talk about our favorite food-themed games, and I interview Kathleen Mercury, a new host on Inverse Genius's Games in Schools and Libraries podcast.
This is the Dice Tower Network, adding games to your wish list since 2005.
Hosting for this episode is generously provided by our fantastic patrons on patreon.com. As a thank you to our patrons, we post extra exclusive content just for them. If you'd like to help us out by pledging $1 per month or more, please visit patreon.com/OurTurnPodcast. Every dollar helps to keep this show going strong. Hi, and welcome back to Our Turn. I'm Kathy Ford.
And I'm Sarah Reed.
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm okay. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Just been playing lots of games lately, and so got some new stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
You want to just dive right in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so what have you been playing lately?
Well, I've gotten a couple of roll and write games. That does seem to be the hot thing right now. And
yes, it does.
It is. So I had backed a Kickstarter earlier this year for Can't Stop Express, which is, it's connected to Can't Stop, but I would say kind of loosely. But then again, Can't Stop itself is kind of abstracted. So.
And it's kind of simple too. So I'm trying to imagine how it got even more simplified in a roll and write.
The interesting thing is it kind of got twisted so that I'm not necessarily sure this is simpler.
Oh, all right. So, do tell.
Yeah, so this one is designed by Sid Saxon, published by Eagle Griffin Games this year, 2017. It plays 1+ players. There's actually no maximum number of players. Except
I like games like that.
Yeah, except maybe your tolerance.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it plays in about 30 minutes. The thing is, it depends on your slowest player. So the interesting thing about this roll and write game is everyone uses the same dice roll every turn. So it doesn't matter who rolls a dice. You're only going to have one die roll. Everyone plays simultaneously. So this is how you can have any number of players. And it's only going to take as long as your slowest player. How the dice work is each player is going to choose how they want to combine the dice to make two pairs. And they're going to mark off boxes next to the two numbers that correspond to the pair total. And then the remaining fifth die gets marked in a separate section that acts as the game's timer. For example, if a 5, 5, 3, 3, and 2 are rolled, you could choose to mark off 10 and 6, leaving the 2 as the fifth die. Now, how you choose which numbers to go for depends on how much risk you want to take. Because just like Can't Stop Express is about risk-taking, but this focuses more on probability of dice. There's a column of numbers on the sheet that go from 2 to 12, which is the range of numbers possible on 2 dice. The extreme ends of 2 and 12 are worth more points, 100 points, because probability is they're going to not roll very often. This is compared to 7, which is the most common number rolled on 2 dice, and it's only worth 30. Here's the risk. As soon as you mark one box next to a number, you immediately have negative 200 points.
Ouch.
Yeah. Now, or negative 100 if you're playing on easy mode. The thing is, you've got 4 boxes in this negative zone, 1 box at 0, and then 5 boxes on the plus side. And this is for each number. So if the first box you mark in, let's say next to 7, you've got to mark 4 boxes, then a 5th box gets you to 0 points, and then each plus box you mark in, you will get that number's score value. So for example, if by the end of the game, you've marked 3 plus boxes for 7, you'd get 3 times 30 for 90 points. But you don't have all the choices in the world because you're limited by the 3 rows in the 5th dice section. At the beginning of the game, these boxes are all blank. On the first roll, one of those die values will be entered into the box. On the second roll, if the 5th die number that you previously chose is rolled, you could use it as your 5th die or choose a new number to write in. But basically, once you have 3 numbers written in, if you roll one of those numbers, it has to be used as your 5th die. And this counts down the game. Each player stays in the game until they individually mark all the boxes in one 5th die row. And then it usually lasts a few rounds for everyone to be out. Then everyone counts up their negative and positive points. Whoever has the highest score wins. So it's a very different kind of push your luck than the original Can't Stop. I mean, you're still making tough choices and weighing the risks. It's even more multiplayer solitaire as no one affects anybody else. I found it fun enough, but the scores can vary widely, with some players getting big negative scores and others getting big positive scores. So as long as no one takes it very seriously, it's a fun roll and write to pass the time. It doesn't replace Can't Stop, at least not for me. I think most times I'd prefer to still pull out Can't Stop, especially now that I have my own physical copy. After years of, not years, but at least a couple years of playing it on, actually I think it's on both Board Game Arena and Yucata. But I finally got my own physical copy. So,
and how do you like that one compared?
I still
like it better?
I still prefer Can't Stop. It's just, it's simpler and a little bit just more lighthearted fun. This one makes you think a little bit more, but it doesn't have the increased strategy that I think balances out the more thinky part of it, because there could just be random rolls that just really don't go your way.
Mm-hmm.
So far, though, I got this mostly for my coworkers, and they're enjoying it so far. I do play with the easier mode of only a negative 100 points for the negative zone, and that makes it a lot easier to handle.
Okay.
So far, I give it a 3 out of 5. I think if anybody suggests Can't Stop, I'll play it. But if someone wants to play this, I'd most likely.
Okay. Yeah, I really enjoy Can't Stop, but I haven't tried Can't Stop Express yet. So
yeah, it's interesting. Sid Saxon definitely has a lot of different, interesting designs, and from what I hear, this is he actually designed this as a different game, which I really should have looked up what it was, and it got rethemed as Can't Stop Express.
Ah, okay.
Which is still kind of odd because Can't Stop doesn't really have a theme other than having a
stop sign
and cones.
And traffic cones, yeah.
This doesn't even have cones. It's a pad of paper, 5 dice, and rules. So, I mean,
okay.
Like I said, if you find it, it's interesting. It adds variety to the roll and write games that we have, but it's really hard for me to say, yeah, you have to go out and get this. I'd still say if you can go get a copy of Can't Stop, that's much more, I would say, be a more fun game to have in your library.
Okay. Like I said, I really enjoy Can't Stop, so
yeah.
That one will definitely be staying in my library.
Yes.
And you got a copy with your copy of Can't Stop Express.
Yeah, that was actually kind of part of why I really wanted to get on the Kickstarter, because they had it at a good price. It's surprising to me how expensive Can't Stop is for what you get, but I think it's because the plastic board is just so unusual.
I think I got it for like $10 at a flea market.
Well, if you look at Amazon, I think it's $30 to $40.
Oh, wow.
And on the Kickstarter, I got it for $25, I think. And then a bunch of my coworkers went in and got their own copy of Can't Stop Express. So I did kind of a little group order, and that helped, spread out the shipping costs and stuff. So I'm still happy I backed the Kickstarter.
Okay. My new game to talk about today, it was actually introduced to me by my friend Richard Bright. Hi, Richard. And that is Steampunk Rally.
Ooh.
Have you ever played that one?
Have not played it, but I have seen it.
Yeah, it was fun.
Good.
It basically, Steampunk Rally is you're putting together these crazy racing contraptions, and you're taking on the persona of famous inventors from the 19th century. So Nikola Tesla, Marie Curie, Edison, people like that. And the nice thing was they had a good balance of men and women.
Nice. That's good.
Characters. That was really very cool. I played Marie Curie. And you're putting together, you get basically a front and a back. Mm-hmm. You 2 cards. One represents the front, and you have to keep that because that's where your inventor is. And then the back, you can trade that out for something later if you want to, but it's actually better than any of the cards you're going to draw. And what you're trying to do is build these crazy contraptions that will give you boosts of energy to move forward in the racetrack or make turns and things like that. And when you're drafting in the parts that you're going to add to your contraption, you're picking those cards based on what kind of dice they allow you and what they do for your vehicle. And I only played it once, and I wish I could play it again because that would help cement it a little more in my mind.
Yeah.
I can tell you I had a lot of fun playing it.
Hey, that's what matters if you enjoyed it.
And I would love to play it again. I know Richard's working on a 1x100 challenge, so getting him to replay a game is a little tough sometimes for very good reasons. Yeah, this was fun. I lost, but not by much.
Hey.
I actually gave him a run for his money. I have yet to beat Richard at any game, but I gave him a run for his money in this one. Anyway, and it has a neat mechanism in that you roll these dice and then you allocate the dice to the different parts of your vehicle.
Ooh.
And then at some point, and I'm trying to remember when, there's a mechanism where you can vent the dice so you clear them off because you can't use that contraption if it's full of dice.
Right.
So there's a way to clear it off, or you can just toss that part and put in a new one. So, yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun. Richard and I were kind of neck and neck there for a little bit, and then he just got that last necessary boost to push him over the finish line. So let me back up just a little bit. This was designed by Orrin Bishop and published by Roxley Games in 2015. And my rating is going to be a good solid 4.
Nice.
I'm willing to bet that if I played it some more, that rating would probably go up to at least a 4.5. But I still need to play it some more in order to kind of explore it a little further. So that is Steampunk Rally. And you said you hadn't played this?
No, but I have seen it. I want to say it was a Kickstarter. I remember seeing...
I think so.
Yeah, I remember seeing a lot about it, but it just didn't... I mean, we're not typically into race to the finish type games. I just prefer games that pace themselves out and everyone has the same number of turns and, generally the same opportunities to do things. And I found some race to the finish style games don't necessarily give you that. Of course, I say that with the fact that we're designing a race to the finish game, but whatever.
If I remember correctly, and I'm sure Richard will correct me if I'm wrong, but if I remember correctly, this had the Takedo style movement.
Okay,
where the person at the back goes first.
Okay,
and you can go as many times as you can until you're in the front, and then the person in the back gets to go.
I actually do really like that mechanism. That's really neat.
I do too. So anyway, but that's Steampunk Rally. Really enjoyed it. I'd like to try it again, Richard. So hopefully you'll bring it and bring it to a game day and we can play that again. So
nice.
Anyway, but thank you for teaching it to me, Richard.
That's awesome. So like I said, I've been on a roll and write kick. So the next one I recently played is called Dice Stars. I don't know how much you've been keeping up with roll and write games. Yeah.
Not much.
No big deal.
If one crosses my path, I will happily sit down and play it. But we still are getting settled into our new place, and I haven't gotten our printer hooked up yet. So printing out roll and write games is a challenge at the moment.
Right.
And so I don't dislike them. I just haven't been playing them very much lately.
Yeah, totally understand that. Well, this one is designed by Bruno Cathala and Ludovic Maublanc, published by WizKids in 2016, so just last year. It plays 1 to 4 players in about 15 to 25 minutes. So this one has a bit more strategy to it, so I already like this one a little bit more. I will make fun of it a little bit, but I think it's because WizKids doesn't necessarily have the best quality control. And there's dice in 4 different colors: blue, purple, black, and yellow. Yes, that last die color. It's a yellowish shade of orange. So we made up a new word, yellow. I will give credit to that to my friends Noreen and Owen in Ohio, because they taught me dice stars over the phone, because we have our iGame nights every Wednesday. And that's one thing, that's why we're on a roll and write kick, is because those are games we can actually play over the phone, the physical games, rather than just always relying on digital games.
Ah, okay.
So they taught me Yellinge. So anyway.
Those color combinations, with the exception of Yellinge, seem like they would be a challenge for anybody with colorblind issues.
I don't think it'd be
blue
too bad.
And purple and black?
Well, the blue is like a very light blue, not quite turquoise, but it's a lighter blue. The purple is like a lavender. So I would actually have to take a picture and run it through one of those online there's a couple of apps and stuff that can show you what it looks like with the 4 different colorblind issues.
Okay.
I don't think they're that bad, because they are. So the main thing is with that is you need different hues or shades of the colors. So as long as they're not the same shade of the different colors, then it's generally okay. But I want to say these ones, black is definitely very distinct. Because the blue and purple are on the lighter side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the blue, purple, and black dice, there are numbers from 2 to 6 and a star instead of 1. On the Yellinge, there's numbers 3 through 6 with 2 sides having a star. And there's a different number of each color. I think there's 2 black, 3 purple, 4 blue, and 5 Yellinge. So it kind of scales up. Score pad is very overwhelming when you first look at it. First of all, I'm really surprised they did full color score pad, which I've seen some do before, like the La Granja No Siesta, but it was all in the kind of rustic tans. But this is, because it's supposed to be dice stars, it's like black, and it's very high contrast, bold. So when you first look at it, you kind of go a little cross-eyed because there's so much on it. But there's some distinct areas. On the left side is like a white grid. On that grid down the left side are numbers 2 through 6, and across the top are the colors in the order of the rarity, which is black, purple, blue, and yellow. Now here on the score pad, it's definitely yellow. So there's that. Again, I like to make fun of WizKids. Their quality control's not always greatest. So to the right of that, there's an area of green boxes that extend the number rows a bit more, so you have a little bit more space for writing in numbers. Then there's a summary box for each row. Then after that is a golden area for stars. And then on the final right side is totals for each row. At the bottom, there's an area for solo play, which I haven't had a chance to try yet, but I've heard from some people they actually prefer the game solo. So that's something to try. There's a little meteor box, and then the final grand total score. So how you play. All the dice go in the bag. And the first person's going to pull out 3 dice and roll them. And then they'll choose dice, which I'll explain in a moment. But any dice not chosen stay out in the pool of dice. And then the next player can choose to pull 1 to 3 dice from the bag, roll them, add them to the pool. Now, when there are either no dice in the bag or someone takes stars, the discarded dice go back in the bag, and the next player can choose to reset the pool and return all the dice to the bag. On your turn, you're going to choose dice by either choosing color or number or stars. If you choose a color, you'll take all dice of that color, add up the value. So let's say you take 2 purple dice that add up to 10. You would then enter an X in the first empty box under purple, and then 10 in the second empty box. So you're always going to fill in the number of boxes equal to the number of dice. It's just the last box is going to have the total value. And this process also applies to numbers. Just you have more spaces to the right for numbers. But if you need to go either below the bottom box of a color or beyond the green boxes of a number, that's when you enter the score into the meteor box, which scores you negative points and immediately ends the game because somehow you triggered a meteor. It's a roll and write. The theme's kind of...
Oops.
Yeah, not really there. Now, how you use stars is really the tricky part of the game. When you take stars, you can enter them anywhere in the star section. However, a completed star row gets you double the score for that row. But an uncompleted row that has at least 1 star gives you 0 points. But if the row is empty, you get normal points. So as soon as you start filling in the stars, you got to make sure you're going to be able to finish the row, or you just earned 0 points for that whole row. So again, the game will end either from the meteor, or when someone fills up that whole left hand white grid, everyone gets a final, turn till everyone has equal number of turns. The first time I played this, I focused way too much on stars and ended up with a really low score because doubling 2 is only 4 points.
4. Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely a strategy in balancing getting stars versus getting good values in that white grid. I like this for the most part. I do feel it's a bit long for what you get out of it, which is why I can see why some people would like the solo version. You're not waiting for other people to take their turn. But I'm still glad I got it. Like I said, it's been a lot of fun to play with my friends in Ohio on iGame night. And so this is, going into the mix of games that we play and have choice for. I still don't think it's a great game, but it's good. So I give it a 3.5.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't played that one yet, but it was on Kickstarter, right?
I don't think this one was.
Oh, okay.
I think there was.
Oh, maybe it was Dice City I was thinking of.
I don't think Dice City was on. There was yeah, I'm trying to remember. I know recently there was a roll and write game on there that had a star theme, but it wasn't like a planetary theme, but it wasn't this one.
Huh, okay.
Now I'm not remembering. But anyway.
All right. My last game that I'm going to talk about is, from my understanding, your favorite game.
Yes, it is.
Seasons.
Yay!
And this was yet another game that my friend Richard, hi Richard, introduced me to. And so I sat down and played this with him and Mark. And this is basically, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, if this is not a good way to describe it. This is Magic the board game.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I really liked it is it gave me that feeling that Magic the Gathering gives with the card combinations without actually being a collectible game.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And the art in it is beautiful. Mm-hmm. It is lovely art. And yeah, I had a great time with it. In fact, Richard loaned us his copy of the game so we could bring it home and play it some more.
Awesome.
And I was playing it with Mark this evening before we started recording because I wanted to refresh my memory on it. So basically, you get dealt 9 cards to start with, and you pick 3, and you put 3 into year 1, 3 into year 2, and 3 into year 3. And then you can play the cards that are in front of you. Now, you have a little player board in front of you, and it has a big hole, and that's where the die that you select goes. Mm-hmm. And then it has this track that is your casting track.
Summoning gauge, but yeah.
Summoning gauge, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's your summoning gauge. And then there's some extra moves that you can take if you want to sacrifice points at the end of the game. And then there's another separate board that is your crystal track, and that's basically victory points, right?
Yep.
I mean, you can gain them or lose them throughout the game.
Right.
And you can spend them to cast some things. But it's a fun game. I would more happily play this than Magic anytime.
Yeah.
And I've played Magic.
Mm-hmm.
It's been many years since I played Magic, but I've played Magic, and the problem that I had with Magic was not the gameplay. Mm-mm. The problem I had with Magic was having to keep up.
Yep.
With the collecting of it. And I wasn't interested in doing that. But this I would sit down and play over and over again. Mm-hmm. And Richard's copy that he lent us has a couple of expansions in it as well, but we haven't put those in yet.
You got to ease into it.
Yeah, we want to get the base game down pat a little bit first, and then we'll add in the expansions as we get a little better at it. But yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this. There's a lot. It's a lot of thinky strategy and tactics both. Mm-hmm. Because when you're planning out your cards at the beginning of the game, you have to figure out, okay, Now, is this going to be a good one to play in the first year, or should I hold on to it till the third year? I had one card that from the game I was playing tonight, drawing a blank on what it's called, but it's basically this fountain.
Uh-huh.
And when you play this fountain, you get 20 crystals.
Yep.
Now, that's great because I went from 0 to 20 in my very first move. Woohoo!
Yeah.
But then in my my third year, I had another card that said, you can pick up one of your magic items and put it back into your hand, which means if it's in your hand, you can play it again.
Yep.
So in my third year, I played this one card that allowed me to pick up the fountain, and I'm going to play it again so I can get another 20 crystals and get ahead.
Yep, that's one of my favorite combos. And it's things like that. It's on its own, this card is good, but then you see, but if I use this card, it can modify or change or enhance, or like you did right there, replay a card. That's what I love about Seasons. But you're not overwhelmed because you only have so many cards you get, and you might be able to gain a few more cards over the course of the game, but it's a very focused strategy and tactics. Sorry.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm having a great time with it. I definitely give this game a 4.
Woo!
I would probably rate it a little higher once I play it some more. But I think this game is probably headed definitely for my top 20.
Ooh.
But it's probably going to be in the top 10, I think. Yeah. I'm really enjoying it. It's a great little game.
Yeah, it definitely has a learning curve to it, but then that's why they have an introductory, and then you open up some of the cards, and you can open up some more of the cards, and then it has the expansion, so it unveils itself as you go along, so you're not just overwhelmed by everything to start with.
Yeah, probably the biggest complaint I've got about it right now is that the setup is really kind of fiddly. Mm-hmm. I was trying to go through and set up the decks, and I just got totally flummoxed. And I handed it to Mark and said, what am I doing wrong? Yeah. And he went through and looked at it, and he was able to figure it out, and then we were able to play. But it probably took us 15 or 20 minutes to get it set up. Is that pretty standard? Yeah, that's about the standard. I'm trying to think if I have an insert for my cop. Well, it has such a great insert, but it still takes time to set up. I will have to say that's one thing I like about that and Dice Forge is they come with really good inserts to start with. But it still takes time to set it up, so yeah. Richard must have tossed his because there's no insert in the box. What? It was like one of the best company-made inserts. Nope. He has these little plastic containers that he's put all the pieces in. And well, no wonder it took you that long. Labeled them. Well, no, it was just the cards that were causing problems. The bits and everything, we just pulled out. Okay. I pulled out orange, Mark pulled out gray, and off we went. Well, that was the other complaint I had. There was no red. Yeah, that's true. Well, the dice were red for autumn, but yeah, the player pieces, there's no red. On the other hand, there was also no blue. We were going, wait a minute. But that's also good because I've played games where there's red and blue dice and then there's red and blue player pieces, but the players don't get those dice colors. So it's, yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, I understand the reason why they did it, and that's fine. It's fine. It's a very minor foible. Yeah. But still, I can't believe you threw away the insert. I'll show you what it normally comes with when you come over next. Okay. All right. Anyway, so that's what we've been playing. You've heard us referring to and rating games by a rating scale. Here's how we're using this scale. 1. Give me back the time I spent playing it. 2. Has great potential as kindling. 3. Decent with some bugs. 4. A good, solid game. And 5. Buy this now. This is Kathy, and today for the interview, I am talking with Kathleen Mercury. Kathleen is a teacher and has made it her mission to teach children how to design their own games. Now she's getting involved in the Games in Schools and Libraries podcast, which is produced by Inverse Genius. Kathleen, welcome to Our Turn.
Thank you for having me. There's a lot of I've had the privilege of talking with a lot of people, but I love what you're doing on Your Turn Yet for women in gaming. I think it's just great.
Oh, thank you. So what ages do you teach?
I teach middle school gifted kids. So I teach grade 7th and 8th right now. And so, we're talking about those magic ages of about 12 to 14.
Okay. And how did you get into hobby board gaming? I see behind you, we're chatting on Skype, and I see behind you, you've got a great collection behind you.
Well, there's only about, I don't know. We probably have about 700, 800, 900 in the house, something like that. Something, just a few little toys. It's too much, honestly. There's a lot here that just, sits and looks pretty, but my darling, he doesn't like to let things go sometimes. So I actually, which is really how I got into gaming is kind of interesting and sort of coming full circle like this weekend. Because when I started teaching gifted kids about 10, 12 years ago, I went to a gifted conference in Missouri where I live, and I went to a session on games in the classroom, and I always loved games. My sisters and I played a lot of different board games. My grandmother and grandpa, they just had a lot of weird ones, which was really cool. And so I thought, I love games, I'll go to this session. And at this session, the presenter was talking about how Stratego is the best game to have in a classroom with gifted kids. Stratego. Well, I have sisters. I have 3 and no brothers. And so I didn't know what Stratego was because I'd never been exposed to that as a kid. I'd never played Risk as a kid because, those are boy games. So I was like, what is this Stratego thing she's talking about? I need to get that. And so I looked it up, and in doing my research, I came across Board Game Geek and this whole other world of board games that I didn't know existed. And I was like, this is amazing. And through a series of things of looking for games on Craigslist of all places, so this is really a story about how Craigslist leads to happy lives. That's a joke. I'm sorry, that's inappropriate. You can edit that out. But so anyway, I found a woman online who was selling a game called Samurai Renner Knizia game, and that was one I had seen on BGG, so I was like, oh yeah, I'll get that. And she told me about a meetup, and then I started going to this meetup in St. Louis and meeting a lot of different gamers, and I just loved it from the start. I mean, my first night of gaming, I played Cash and Guns and Pandemic, and it was like, what is this magic happening? This is amazing. And so just going back and just playing all these amazing games in all these different ways, that you can have like players make decisions and everything. And so finally one time we were playing a game called Maori, a Rio Grande game about making islands in the South Pacific. And it's a very simple, pleasant little game, and I just thought, if you can make a game out of this, you can make a game out of anything. And by seeing games that were relatively simple but had interesting choices, I thought my students can totally do this. And so I've been doing it for about 10 years now, slowly getting better and learning more and, always making mistakes. But here I am 10 years and teaching board games.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's quite a journey.
Yeah.
When you teach the children how to design games, what's your process for teaching that?
Well, one of my big things, especially in a gifted classroom, any classroom and any kid, sure, but with gifted kids, there are certain specific things that I want them to work on, and some of the things I want them to struggle. A lot of times with gifted kids, if they're in a regular content-based classroom, like if they're really good at math, they're going to be good at math. And it's hard for teachers with so many other kids to make sure that every kid is learning at their level every single day. If they do well, they're done. And then maybe they go on to read or do something else. Or, our teacher actually has some really good games in his classroom, which is crazy because who knows where he got Ricochet Robots and all these other cool games in his classroom from. I don't know. P.S. me. But so I always want them to struggle because they need to learn how to work through complex problems. I like that. And the other thing, though, too, to keep in mind is they're also middle school kids. And so it's a balance between their burgeoning sort of sense of awareness of who they are and their place in the world and what they're good at and who they are. There's all this sort of identity formation happening. And sometimes it's very fragile and sometimes it's very robust. But giving them the chance to design a game from start to finish gives them the opportunity to take on a complex problem, design solutions for it, test them, improve upon them in the effort of making it better. And it's a really fun class. It's also a really frustrating class. It can be a very upsetting class at times for kids when things just don't work. But the thing that I try to emphasize with them more than anything is, this is what life is. Anytime you want to take on something in the real world, there's no right answer. There's no tray to turn the worksheet in. It's what's your idea? How are you going to work through this to get there? And so a lot of what I do when it comes to game design, I mean, we talk about mechanics. I mean, they can tell you the difference between, well, maybe not worker placement. That one's a little bit mystifying to them sometimes, but they know the difference with like about 20 basic mechanics. They know what they are. They try them in their games. But the big thing for me, and I use the Stanford design method of prototype development, but there's a big, huge piece on empathy and understanding the needs of their user. So with that, we do a lot where they're each working on their own game, but they collaborate with each other all along the way, from when they're generating their ideas, getting feedback from each other in a formal way, not just, hey, sit there and talk to your neighbor, but also what we're doing right now is their very initial prototypes that they've only been working on the physical prototype for about 4 days. And the first ones hit the table today because it's, we rush to fail fast, although I use the word setback more than failure because it doesn't wiggle them out so much, especially since grades are sort of involved. So we just work on getting them to work through the process to not see things as black and white, good and bad, but what's workable? What can I learn from this? What can I take from here? How can I incorporate other people's ideas and put them into the next better version of this game? And this is hard for all of us, I mean, I'm a game designer too, and I've got a game that I'm working on. It's sold, it's under contract, but I'm still having to make changes on it. And it's so frustrating to me that some of the things that I'm coaching them through for the first time is what I go home to at night, where I need to get this game in front of other people and I need to get other people's feedback and I need to make some decisions and go with it, not knowing where they're going to go. But hey, we're going to make a fun mess and see what happens.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of fun, but a lot of work as well.
Well, it is a lot of work. I mean, a lot of my work is on the front end as far as like preparing everything for what they do in class. And so in class, a lot of what I do is working with them through the process because at the end, there's no grade for having a good game. I don't grade them based on that. What I'm looking for at the end is, do they have all the required elements? When they write their rules, are they written in ways for other people to understand? Because we, talk about technical writing, and I'm trying to really improve on that for myself as far as getting them to write their rules better in a more technical way, as opposed to I just dumped out all my thoughts on paper. I'm also, I'm sorry, I dropped the question. What was the question again?
I just commented that it seemed like it was a lot of work, but it sounded like it was also a lot of fun.
See, I just overwhelmed myself thinking about all the work.
Okay.
And so, okay. No, it's okay. No, I love it. I love it, love it, love it. But this is definitely something where you have to be pretty committed to the process, to not just dealing with the kid's failure, but your own,
Sure.
I mean, I want every kid to walk out of the room feeling proud of, look at what I did. And I have kids who leave my room going, like my game wasn't very good. No matter how much I try to really get them to see or shift their perspective, it's still kind of like the marble would settle back into that little pit. So every year I'm just trying to get better and better in terms of setting their expectations so they're willing to go for it, but also providing the security and support they need to make those steps when they do it, But this is why I have my website where I put all of my teaching resources on there for free for teachers to use. And that's because when I got started, I found very, very little out there to actually help me teach kids game design. And so as I would just start cobbling things together from a variety of sources and putting them out there, and I just thought, what? Because I thought about publishing it as a book, but that's static. With this, I can update it, I can improve it as I do it, and it's always changing, it's always getting better. But I hear from people all over the world who are using my stuff, and it's amazing. And Canada, Mexico, Australia, tons of people in the U.S., and I think it's really great that people are willing to take this on as far as a project for their kids because it's such a good thing to do with kids.
It is. It is. And I found your website today and I was looking through it, and it's amazing. It's got all sorts of resources in there. And we will definitely have a link to that in our show notes for this episode.
Please. It's for free. And I have to tell you, today I was working with a few different documents doing stuff for kids. And one, I was seeing like, in Google Docs, where you see it's like anonymous wombat and anonymous Nyan cat. And there are a couple people in one document and somebody else was another document. I was like, you guys, like somebody right now, somewhere in the world is in this while I am. Like, that's so cool. That's so cool. But then one of the documents, I was looking at it and I was like, oh, I need to change that. So I'm literally like making changes on the document while other people are in there. So they probably got to see me whiz banging stuff around. So if they wanted the document only one way, P.S. I changed it. But hey, guess what? It's free. So you can deal.
You said you teach 7th and 8th grade. So do the kids go through this unit that you do for, you said, a semester?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They go through it twice?
No. Some have, actually. Some kids who've really, really loved games and game design, and they wanted to do it again. So we actually have let kids who took it first semester do it again second semester. And I handled that very differently with them, which was really fun too. But I teach in a school district that has a quite sizable gifted population. So my middle school has about 1,000 kids. Wow. And roughly 25% to 30% are identified as gifted.
Oh, wow. That is a good size population.
Well, 3% is the national norm. And no, we don't blow the numbers out. I teach in an area where a lot of my students' parents were successful because of their education, whether, business, medicine, law, research. And so a lot of my students, their parents themselves are in academia. And so I have a lot of smart parents who have a lot of smart kids. So we have a really big gifted population, which is nice because that means we have 3 gifted teachers just in our building. And it gives us a lot of opportunities to really work and develop, really cool options for kids. So in 7th grade, they're with me for this. And then we flip them at semester. And the other semester that they take is espionage, which is hilarious because that's a good time when we talk about ethics. And just because you can log on to your friend's school email account, it's still very much against school rules. And you may not do that. So right. That's how we do it in 7th grade. But when I run the espionage class, at the end we do a simulation. And this is where like all of my game design experience, everything comes into play. And it's like, I just set up these things where last year was amazing. It was like this one newspaper and they had to write little classified ads for this one thing. But then I put all these other classified ads in that at first they just ignored because they thought they were filler. But then as they were looking for what's the next thing we need, and they finally somebody realized, oh my gosh, you guys, there's something right here. And it was like layers of an onion. They would peel something off. They realized, oh my gosh, we need this. And so watching them like swirl deeper and deeper, and I'm sitting there behind my desk cackling like a fool. They're all in their Google Docs like typing with each other. And what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? And they're like, Miss Mercury. And I'm just like, I told you guys I was so smart. I told you. So I could be more mature about things, I guess, sometimes, but it makes it fun. So, yeah. So
absolutely.
And I want them to, because sometimes, especially for my students, they're very, very good at being intense about things. So I have to bring in a sense of humor with them. That's my style. It doesn't work for everybody. Bringing in a sense of humor and trying to be very human about the process and what I'm doing and my struggles. I ask them for input all the time. So this upcoming weekend, I was mentioning this earlier, I'm actually presenting on teaching game design at the conference that kind of got me started on this process 12 years ago. So
nice.
That's that full circle that I forgot to close earlier. And
that's okay.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's really, I was asking students today who are in my 8th grade, who took the class with me last year. I said, you guys, there's things I'm putting in there about how I do things. What do you think about this? And one of the things I was asking them about is for their final projects, they design a game by themselves. Now, they collaborate with other kids every step of the process. They will play test their game probably with every other kid in that room. But, they create their own game. I want them to have full ownership of it. I want them to be able to express their vision, that they don't have to compromise, if they were two people together and one person wants idea A and the other person wants idea B and neither one of them like it. So they pick C, which they don't really like, but it's kind of the neutral thing, but not as good. This way they can have A. This way they can have B,
Sure.
whatever they want. And then, so we do that. And so I was asking them, I said, do you think it's better for me to say, this is how you should do it? I mean, I can say this how I do it, but they're like, no. Because, and they're, so we're having this discussion about why they thought it was better to do that. Now, some kids, I said, maybe give them the choice. And we talked about the pluses and minuses of that. But I mean, I want them invested in every step of the process. And so what was actually really, really cool last year at the end of the year, I missed the last couple actual days of the school year because of Geek Way to the West, a game convention here in St. Louis. I'm on the planning board for that, and it's really fun. Everybody should come. plug. And then I came back, and one of my 8th graders, now 8th grade is different. 8th grade, the kids get to help choose what they do. And so I end up doing a lot of just geeky stuff. I mean, I look to what do smart, geeky adults like to do? Oh, they like to do these things? Okay, cool. We will do those things. So last year I did a RPG design unit. I had a bunch of kids that are already playing D&D, and my thing is, if there's something they love, that's cool. We're going to learn how to make it. So we did a RPG design unit. Right now we're doing a cosplay unit, which is kind of bonkers and stuff. But with the RPG unit that I did last year, one of my students was so far advanced in D&D, really, really brilliant kid, so smart, and read almost anything he could get his hands on about Dungeons and Dragons. And in fact, when the kids did character generation, he ran a D&D game with them. And I've played a whole bunch of RPGs with a whole bunch of different people. And he is a really good GM. And even at 8th grade, he was an amazing GM. I was like, whoa, I would play a game with you anytime, And so anyway, so when I came back to school, on my last day, kids are gone, it's the clean up, get your grades in kind of day. And there was a letter from this particular student, the type of letter teachers love, going on and on and on about how much they love the class, how good it was for them, that stuff. And then it said, flip over, don't be mad. And I flipped it over. Well, actually, no, it didn't even say don't be mad, it just said flip over. In my head, anyway. I flipped it over. And on the back is a critique of my RPG design class of you did this and here's how this could be done. And we did this and this is how could be done. And I think next year's kids, and Liam, if you have this kind of kid, do it for this. If you have this kind of kid, do it for this. Full page. And the thing is this was one of those moments where I was like, absolutely, I did a good thing, where I'm
getting chills just listening to you talk about it.
What?
I'm getting chills just listening to you talk about it.
I know, but that's the thing.
That's exciting.
It is because, to create an authentic culture of feedback and collaboration, not just between each other, not just like me as teacher lady standing in front, which I don't really do that anyway, but you know what I mean? But to have this relationship where he knows I'm trying to get better and I know they're trying to get better and we're all doing our part to just help us learn and make cool things that are kind of awesome, And it was really amazing. I mean, that's where I felt like I'm on the right track with this, because if I have a student who is willing to share that knowledge with me so that I can get better at what I'm doing, then I've done something good here.
Fantastic. Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah. I told you I have a fun job.
It sounds like a great job.
Yeah.
So have any of your kids had any of their games start going through the publishing process?
Well, sort of. So one of my students that I had a few years ago, he's now at the high school. When he was in middle school with me, he came to Geekway with his dad, and I had him present his prototype at one of the game design prototype events I run, because I do all the game design stuff at Geekway. And I made sure that every publisher came in the room no, this is a real game. And I mean, he's really, really good. This particular student has a way of thinking that he's so visual in his thinking that when he's working through prototypes, it's almost like a form of 3D modeling. So by the time he actually makes the prototype, it's so far in development compared with most initial prototypes, because he's really able to think it and move it around in his head. And so one of the publishers that was there was really interested in it and took it and was taking a look at it. And then that publisher was sold, and then it was sold again. And so finally, the fine company that owns it, they essentially passed. I mean, and I can't blame them as far as that, because there were, 2 standard deviations removed from it at that point. So they just had this thing. So they weren't interested, which was a bummer, because it really is an amazing game. Now, this particular student, his dad teaches game theory at a local university. So, when
wow.
Yeah. I mean, there's some really cool resources that I have to use in my classroom if I choose. But so they have a deep understanding of games and game design, but it wasn't like this was the dad's game and the kid just didn't know this was the student's game. So the main reason why a lot of times we don't, but that's really kind of, obviously atypical. As far as publication goes, our 2 big roadblocks are, one, we only spend probably a full solid quarter on their prototype. And we do spend, almost an hour every single day in some fashion, or they might be helping other people. But, that's not a lot of time to get a game from initial concept to playable game. So that's a big issue. And the other issue for us is, getting publishers to see it. One semester, the kids wrote letters to various game publishers about their game. I got a very kind email response back from one of the companies via email, and then after that, nothing. And so I thought, well, I don't want to waste the kids' time. I don't want to get their hopes up for something that isn't there. So I just decided on BGG to make a post in one of the games in the classroom thread, just with their games and descriptions. And it got a great response. People like, this is amazing. I wish I had this class when I was a kid, those sorts of responses. And people asked really great questions for the kids about their games. And so now every semester at the end, I make a geek list, and there are links to it on my website if you want to see those.
Yeah, I discovered those today, and I'll make sure to link to them in our show notes.
Yeah, absolutely. Please. So every semester, I write a blurb about what we do, and the kids post pictures of their games and a short blurb about what their game is, and people from all over the world like their games. They thumb them, they write questions, they write comments. I post them through my account, so just the internet's the internet, so everything gets filtered through mine. So I post everything going back and forth, and but it's so cool. One of my students, he ended up creating his own account with his parents' permission. He's 13, so it's okay. And he and this game designer corresponded so much during the summer, because every time there was a comment, I would get a ping notification. So they kept going back and forth in this discussion about this game long after the class was over, which I thought was just so cool. But also too is how nice and kind people are on the website, on BGG. Maybe people don't say that a lot, but from my end, as far as comments and questions and support for the kids and their projects, it's great. And we do it every semester. It'll come out, so December and May. And my gosh, if anytime somebody writes on a kid's game, I would totally buy this. Every bit of frustration and stress, all of that just goes out the window. And the thing that I want to, I always remind them or tell them, harp upon them, proclaim upon them, is you made something. There's lots of people out there who just consume. And there's nothing wrong with reading somebody else's book if it's a great book and you love it. There's nothing wrong with spending your weekend writing books. And I'm not saying I think you should be an author if you love to read, but wouldn't it be fun to try, and to put something out there? If there's something you love, try to make it yourself. And so that's what we do with games. Is they love games. That's cool. Make it, put it out there, see what happens, And so I was, one of the things I tell them is genius isn't a number. It's the ability to add new truth to the world. Look at the people who've done great things. Nobody cares what their IQ scores are, even if they would be high. The thing is, what did Steve Jobs do? What did, Elon Musk, what does he do? What do all these people do that do something to make the world better, that add new knowledge and truth? And not just, people that are in science and technology, but the arts as well. And so that's what I always want them to do, is not just to be a passive consumer, but be a creator. Be somebody that puts ideas out there into the world.
Absolutely. I see that you also run an after-school board game club. Is that for just your gifted students, or is that for more students?
That's for anybody. We get,
okay.
Yeah, I have to have a sign-up sheet, and it fills up very quickly. 25 kids roughly. This year, I actually had to cut the list down to 20, knowing that I'd probably have more stragglers begging at my door, and which happens, and that's fine. No, that's for anybody in the building. And, we have, definitely our regulars who come every single time, but we also have plenty of kids who, come one time and maybe I don't see them for a while if they've got other stuff going on. It's been great, especially for game design, because when kids come in and they learn and play all these other games, they become familiar with them. So by the time I actually have them in class, they already have a body of knowledge to build upon. I mean, I think it was 6 years ago. And the reason why I've mentioned this in other avenues, but the reason why this kind of sticks out is 6 years ago, this one particular kid who just graduated from high school, he and his family had Puerto Rico and they played Puerto Rico, and I was blown away. And no other kid that I had that year had heard of any or played any other game other than what, Monopoly and kind of those other sort of standard games. Now I have kids coming in with so much gaming experience because of my board game club. And I try to do once a quarter, just depends on what my schedule is, game nights where we'll stay after school on a Friday from like 3 to about 9 or so. And I order pizza and we just hang out in the cafeteria because it's got big tables. And the kids just play games. They'll play bigger games. They'll play longer games. And this is when I started doing those. I started seeing kids bringing in more games from home that I had not introduced them to. I had not taught to them, but they were finding out about Tom Vassell and they were watching Tom Vassell's podcast regularly. Tom Vassell says this about this game. Tom Vassell says this about this game. So their knowledge about gaming, the world of gaming, started to grow and spread beyond what I was even exposing them to, which I think is awesome and amazing because, they're gifted middle school kids now, or just middle school kids. We don't even have to worry about the gifted part, but they're going to be high school students. They're going to be college students. And how great would it be that their Friday and Saturday nights are spent with their friends hanging out over the table playing anything as opposed to the much more terrible things they could be doing because they're bored and they're looking for something to provide some sort of intellectual interest to them. Because if you don't give gifted kids hard problems to solve, they will create their own. So that's my rationale for that. But it's also it's fun and it's a great way to spend your time. You can be smart and you can have fun with your friends and it's a win-win all around. So I've had kids going, when are we going to have our next board game night? When are we going to have our next board game night? I was like, we'll get there. And actually,
it sounds kind of like a mini con.
It is. And well, although that's funny though, because some kids are like, you guys are going to play games for 6 hours? How can you play games for 6 hours? I was like, oh, little grasshopper.
Tell them about Twilight Imperium.
I have, actually. I tell them about Twilight Imperium, and then I'm like, guess how you win. Guess how many points you need. And they're like, 30,500,000. I'm like, no, 7. They're like, what? It doesn't have to be a big number to make it cool, kids. You can take off all those zeros.
And it's funny because sometimes the games that you wouldn't expect would go long can be long. I played an 8-hour game of Munchkin one time.
Oh. That's like a tattoo-worthy kind of thing almost.
It was great fun. My husband and I have almost all of the iterations of Munchkin, and we put them all in one box, shuffled the whole thing together. Oh. The two different decks were 2 boxes, and took them to a party and just started dealing them out, and they were all mixed up together. And so they were like, "All right, how do we get this one and this one to work together?"
That's really funny.
It was fun. It was fun.
Well, after Gen Con last year, one of the last things I did was I was hanging out with some of my friends in their hotel room. And, okay, what are we going to play? And we had all these games. And so we got out No Thanks, just to start with. And we played No Thanks for 2.5 hours. Game after game after game. And, and the thing is a couple of the people I was playing with are game designers with prominent companies. And, I want to suck up any knowledge that I can about games and game designers. I mean, I The one game that I'm working on right now, I've got another game that's going to be published. I don't know when it's going into production yet, but it should be relatively soon with IDW Games called Crash Games. And I don't consider myself a great game designer. You know, one of the things I tell my kids is game designers design bad games and make them better. Like, I think I have a lot of weird ideas, and that's helpful. You know, I'll think about things differently than a lot of people, and that's a big start. But I don't think I'm necessarily a great game designer. So when I get the chance to play games, not just like talk about game design or, do work, but when I get the chance to play games with game designers, developers, I mean, I am watching everything they do and trying to get them to talk about the process as much as possible and obviously this goes right back into what I do with my kids and kind of building my knowledge and experience. But it's also because I just think it's so fascinating, when you see people that can do this so well in terms of, understanding human behavior and the different types of choices and how you can make choices and coming up with novel and interesting ideas. And it's just so interesting and fun for me.
So do you have any tips for parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles that want to expose kids at different ages to games?
One thing I would do for sure is I would say go to BGG or just do a search for Board Game Geek and Holiday Gift List, because they recommend games for gifts in a variety of different categories. And I think that's really helpful as far as to research games and learn about games a little bit that way, as opposed to, this looks kind of fun, I'll pull this off the shelf. Because there's a lot of things, that are coming out that look amazing, but sometimes they're not what they look like that they could be. I remember one time Mark had the game Primordial Soup. This is a long, long time ago. And Mark, my boyfriend, and we were just friends then. I was just a new little gamer. We barely knew each other, and I still think it makes me laugh now. So it was all about bacteria, poop, basically eating things. I'm like, this is hilarious. I love everything about this, because in the end of the day, I still consider myself a middle school student, really. And then opens the box, and it's like hexagons and sticks. I'm like, what? Where's the poop? And he's like, this is how it is. This is how the game is. I'm like, I don't want to play it anymore, because I thought it was going to be something, you know what I mean? So that's an excellent example to use. I was denied the poop I wanted so badly. That's really sad. And actually, well, one of the games that I sold, not Crash Course, but the other one actually did have poop as a resource. That unfortunately is being changed to Fireballs, but for the better, honestly, if I must be honest. But anyway, so I'm still there. I'm not growing at all. It's fine. The kids can. I'm just a stagnant mess, but it's fine. No, I would say do some research as far as good games to get. And honestly, this may be one of those things where if kids are being exposed to good games too, they have the opportunity to expose their parents to games, because a lot of times parents aren't going to go into necessarily like a game store or something like that, but it's very likely that kids at their friend's house, somebody will have a game that they play and they're like, oh wow, this is different, this is cool. I mean, I've got kids who bring Munchkin quite often to my board game club. So I would say let your kids teach you, because that's one thing that I think that happens sometimes is parents are used to being able to beat their kids at a lot of different games, or they're very comfortable with them. And when it comes to playing a different game, learning the rules to another game, parents can be more resistant to doing that process than kids can. Kids have to learn things every single day at school. Adults don't necessarily have to do that. So
they've gotten out of the habit.
Right. So being willing to play games and get it out and put it on the table, I think is super, super important. And just remember, my third point, in this magic world of the internet, type in whatever game name you want and tutorial how to play it, and someone has made a video for you. And so it's really easy and much less painful sometimes to learn games that way, as opposed to sitting down with a rule book and trying to visualize what they're talking about. And there's cool seeing things like, was it Dized? That one, it was like a Kickstarter out of Finland or something like that, to try to help teach people how to learn games. I think it's great because, access means you walk through the door and you can sit down and you can play. And for some, just getting past the rule book can be enough of a challenge.
That was actually how I learned how to play Twilight Imperium 3, was through a series of somebody, I can't remember who, did a series of videos. Okay, in this video, we're going to talk about this aspect of it. In this video, we're going to talk about this aspect of it. And it was 8 or 10 different videos, but I watched it, and then I watched it the night before the con I was going to run it at, and I'd never played it. And so I watched it again, all the videos, and I went in the next day and I sat down and I was able to teach a table full of newbies how to play Twilight Imperium. I'd never played it before, much less run it.
That's awesome.
And there was one guy at the table who had played it before, and he was able to correct me on a few things, but mostly he just let me sit there and do the talking, and we played about a 6.5 hour game of Twilight Imperium.
That's so cool.
So, yeah, it was kind of fun.
Well, I think one thing, especially being a woman in gaming, and it's getting better and better. I mean, I think Dice Tower, I went to their con over the summer, and they had as close to a 50-50 ratio as I've ever seen for any convention. You know, I know they vary depending on who it is and what it is. But I think one thing for me personally is I never let inexperience stop me from doing something. So if I'm like, hey, I'm going to teach game design. I was teaching game design very, very early when I was starting to play games, you know. I mean, I was learning as I was doing it, you know, and that's one thing is, you know, like, especially for my kids, like, hey, you don't have to know how to learn to design a game. You learn it as you do it, and you do the best you can, you know, the same thing for them. And I think especially being a woman in gaming, you know, having, for me, not saying this works for everybody, but for me, that's one thing that's let me to be successful in some of these endeavors that I've jumped upon, because I've just been willing to do it, you know, damn the tornadoes sort of thing. Not tornadoes, torpedoes. I'm from the Midwest. We don't have torpedoes here, you know, so I think that's something. But I think, no, for me, that's one thing that I've done as far as, you know, to be able to be flexible to the needs of my students. And what I'm doing is just being like, you know what, it's going to be a mess. And actually, you know, on the show Parks and Rec, the character Andy, played by Chris Pratt, someone took a bunch of his quotes and turned them into these sort of like inspirational quotes. And I printed off one, and it's the title slide. Whenever I teach about game design now, this is my title slide. And it's a picture of some sort of like beautiful, you know, creek or, you know, river and the mountains and stuff, whatever. But it says at the bottom, I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well. And that's kind of become my mantra. You know what I mean? Because there has to be that sense of you. It's like, I don't know if this is going to work, but we're going to do it. We're going to see what happens. And if it's a hot mess, that's okay. It's going to be a fun hot mess. And, you know, so here we go. And then, so, and it helps, you know, with my students sometimes, because it gives them a lot of freedom to be ridiculous, but it also gives me the sort of weird courage in order to be like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this, and we'll just see what happens.
That's a great attitude to have. Now, you and I connected through Twitter after the Inverse Genius account announced that you were going to be a host on their Games in Schools and Libraries podcast. So that's exciting. How did you get involved with them?
So because of the work I do on BGG, as far as geek lists and then participation in the Games in the Classroom forum, Donald Dennis came across me, and he had sent me a message and said, hey, would you be on the show? And I was like, absolutely. As you're noticing, I'm not afraid to talk about things. And so so he brought me on the show, and we talked about my game design class, and it was really fun. And he said this was great. And so he's like, let me know if you want to be on the show again. And I said, I will always be on the show. So then I was on there another time talking about how I have my students give feedback. I use this form called the Wink. So there's an episode, the Wink, WINQ. So we talked about the Wink form and how I use that with kids, and just feedback, giving it, getting it, and how easy and hard that is for all of us all the time. And then I was on early in the school year when we were supposed to record an episode about my RPG design class that I do with my 8th grade, and we started talking about Catan, because this summer I actually worked for Catan Studio, and I went to a whole bunch of different game conventions, and it was a ton of fun. I got to play a lot of games and go to different game conventions I'd never been, and it was the most fun summer ever. And so we got talking about Catan, and we ended up talking about Catan and Catan and Catan, and I was like, finally, I'm like, well, I guess I can talk about Catan in the classroom then, and this is how I've used it in my classroom. And so then, he's like, well, I guess we've got a Catan episode. I was like, cool. And so then right after that, then we just started talking about the RPG design stuff. So then, but Donald and Stephanie Frey, who worked with him on this, they're both librarians, so it's games in schools and libraries. So they know the library side quite well, obviously. But with me being a teacher and having more knowledge about what happens in the classroom, they asked if I would take that over. Plus, it's just harder for them to, I think, make contacts with people in education. Whereas for me, especially with my website and just meeting people and talking with people and, the way I've participated with games in the classroom, like I've come into contact with a whole bunch of people from a whole different perspectives on what they do and how they use games and stuff. So they asked if I would take over sort of like on the school side somewhat. And I was like, I would love to. So, and it's kind of funny now because remember what I was saying, like whenever I talk with or play games with game designers, I'm always watching them. Well, I've recorded 2 episodes and I feel like for me, it's been a little stilted, just because nerves and sort of like over preparing, my lists of questions and stuff like that, as opposed to just like feeling more free and comfortable to sort of chat a little bit. So like even now, like paying attention to you and what you're doing and how you're doing it, learning from you as well. So even then, this is a wonderful moment for me to learn from. So yeah, but it's been a ton of fun. And I've got like a whole list of people that I get to talk to. And I'm so excited because there aren't a lot of people out there who do what I do, at least that I get to talk to and on a given basis. Most of the people that I work with in my building are like, what? And sometimes I'm like, more people know about what I do outside of my building than in it, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. So to talk with other people about games and education and how they use them is really a great thing for me too, because I'm learning a ton more. Last night I spoke with a guy who teaches special ed, and he uses them especially with his social skills classes, and was talking about how he uses them, how he creates situations where they can, where they get frustrated so that he can work through it with them using games. And it was really, really interesting because certainly I have kids who, are dual diagnosis where they have special needs in addition to their giftedness. And so sometimes, when it comes, things that he was talking about with his students are still applicable to mine, or really any kid sometimes when you're, kids frustrated in a game, and how do you coach and work them through that so they can learn from that and, hopefully do better next time, make some progress.
This is very exciting. You are just so animated about this topic. I wish I had more teachers like you when I was in school.
Yeah, that's the other thing people say a lot too sometimes on BGG. And I'm not saying this to be, I'm not saying this at all to be, self-centered or conceited or anything like that, because I work really, really hard. I do. I love what I do.
Oh, I imagine
I love
you
what
do.
I do. I'm lucky that I get to do what I want, how I want it, when I want it. The fact that the school district that I'm at lets me do game design and cosplay. We have a strict no mask, no weapons policy. And I'm telling you right now, there are a couple swords that are being made in my classroom out of foam. So, they're really supportive, especially when they know that I'm doing things for an educational benefit and that kids are happy and parents are happy, which is a big thing of it too. But honestly, one of my things is my inspiration for being a teacher was my gifted teacher, because she was just fearless. She had scars on both hands from when she was out snake hunting, and she went down to pick up a snake and then realized a little too late that she picked up the head of one and the tail of another, Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I hear it stings, the bite of poisonous snakes.
Yeah.
So anyway, but she was just willing to just let us help, direct what we did and, to support us and, making mistakes and learning from things. So like even from my middle school, career, when I was in middle school, I remember very, very little of what I did, but I remember what happened in those classes because, we were invested. We got to make choices. It was really creative. It was really fun, and it was hard. But we got to do it. We got to do cool stuff. And for me, that will always, always be the way that I approach things. It's like, I could teach this the boring way, or I can, what's the fun way to do this? Like, how can we do this where, we're having a good time? Because, even going back further, when I was in, not further, actually, a little closer. When I was 16, I got hired to be a lifeguard. And at the summer camp, and I thought my job was going to be to sit in a chair and get tan all day and hang out while the kids splashed around. They're like, no, you're teaching swim lessons. Well, my dad was a swim coach and diving and water polo but I'd never been in a swim team because he had quite enough of it. So I always knew how to swim because he would just kind of, correct things along the way. I never had lessons. And so when I was in the pool with kids and I had to teach them to swim, I mean, it was one of the most important moments for me as a teacher, not that I knew it then, but taking something complex and breaking it down and, teaching each individual skill and eventually coming up with a game for this one and a game for this one. So, by the end, I would, we played games in the pool and at the end of it, they knew how to swim. So that's always been my approach, and I get frustrated sometimes when, teaching's hard. People have a lot of demands on their time. And honestly, if you're a teacher and you have kids, that's like a double whammy. Because if you're tired of kids and there are 800 questions during the day, then you get to go home to your own. And you don't, they're not necessarily as patient with you as sometimes the kids in school are. So I get it. But I get frustrated sometimes because, in my mind, my small little privileged worldview, and I am privileged, I fully admit that, but there's no reason why this can't be the most fun job. I think teachers need to be paid more. I think there need to be higher standards in education classes. I think communities need to support education more, not just in a, give me a Starbucks card at Christmas. P.S. I love those. But also, that you have to invest in high quality teachers if you want to have high quality education. And that does mean spending money because,
Absolutely.
because I'm willing to do this, but let's say that there's somebody else who's like me and I could do this and make what I make, or I could start at a salary that's what I make now after how many years in the field, and then have so much more possibility for financial growth. At the end of the day, teachers can't pay mortgages or college tuitions for their own kids, and smiles and, Apple stickers and stuff like that. Like, it's a real job that needs to be supported. And so it's hard sometimes for people with all these different pressures and challenges on them to not have the same happy-go-lucky, not really, but, approach that I do. But I really, really love it. I really love what I get to do. So many people are like, oh, well, you've got a game coming out. Does that mean you're going to leave? It's like, do you understand that I never want to leave this job? That with all the other cool things that I'm getting to do now, from the podcast and game design and all this other stuff that I'm doing, I do not want to leave this job because of everything I get out of it, but also how much I get to do with my students and have them get out of it. So,
and it shows in your
thank you.
enthusiasm. It really
Thank
does. So besides your website, KathleenMercury.com, how can people connect with you online if they want to chat with you?
So I'm on Twitter at Mercury, but it's with 7 M's. So Mercury. That's probably 7. So at Mercury, 7 M's. And I'm always looking for guests for the show. So if you do something with education and games, I'll talk to you about it. So, message me, follow me, message me on Twitter. That's good. On Board Game Geek, I'm Funk Donut, all one word, Funk Donut. And so the Games in the Classroom forum is a good one. I'm usually monitoring that one fairly well. And those are good places. You can email me directly through the website as well. So if you email me, then it'll go straight to me. And so that's cool. I love hearing from people. I love helping people out. I get emails from people saying, I read this. I love this idea. This is what I'm thinking. And I'll write back with, these are great ideas. Think about this, think about this, think about this. One guy, he wrote to me and he said that he's a game designer. Like, he emailed me a link to his portfolio, and it was a lot of different games and licensed games. So he's working for, I don't know, Hasbro or something. I don't know. But anyway, so all these different games that he's worked on, and he wanted to have a game design program at his daughter's school. And I said, that's awesome. And he's like, what advice do you have? And I said, have very low expectations. And I don't mean that to not expect them to do things, but if I'm going to have them make games that are at this level, the reality is they're probably going to be at a slightly different level, so just be ready for that. And I think one thing about teaching game design to kids is I know you're asking about contact information, and here I go again, but it's such a human process. You can't do this if you're not willing to connect and really form relationships with kids, because if you are at an arm's length and you're just trying to put stuff in front of them and let them have at it, it's not going to work. So there's ways you can make it work, but know your own strengths, whatever. Okay, so anyway, as I said, Oh, yeah. So on Facebook, there's the Games in Schools and Libraries podcast page. You should find that, like that, comment, start conversations. I'll always message back. And then also another really good Facebook group is the Association of Board Game Educators. There's about 200 or so people in there, but that one is fairly active as far as other people who are interested in games in the classroom, games in education in some way. So that's a really good one too. Plus, it's really cool. There's a lot of people who are game designers who are actually in education in some form too. So that's been kind of fun to figure out, like, what? You're a high school counselor? No way. So it's kind of cool.
That is neat. Well, thank you so much for coming on to Our Turn and chatting with me. It's been a lot of fun just listening to you go because you're just so enthusiastic about it.
Thank you. I mean, and I'm really excited to, like I said, for what you guys are doing and to have the opportunity to speak with you too. It's been a ton of fun. Thank you so much.
Hey everyone, this is Sarah. If you're curious on how you can support the show, here are some ideas. If you'd like to support us financially, you can support us through Patreon at www.patreon.com/ourturnpodcast. We've switched from pay per episode to pay per month. We also have a donation button on the site for anyone wanting to do a one-time donation. We have a lot of plans to improve our audio and expand the content we provide, but we need help to do so. However, we totally understand that not everyone has the funds to support us. Thankfully, there are many non-monetary and important ways to help us. Tell a friend about the show. Really, one of the best ways to support us is to spread the word to people you know. Commenting on our posts, either on the website, Facebook, Twitter, or the Board Game Geek Guild, are very helpful for us to know what listeners think and want from our show. If you think of anyone you'd like us to interview, please let us know. We'd also appreciate any shares of our posts on social media. Take pics of you playing games and post them to any of our social media avenues. We'd love to know what you're playing and maybe take a look at playing those games too. Please call our voicemail number at 916-426-2873 and leave a message or a show intro or promo. For example, you could say, "This is Sarah and it's our turn," or "This is Sarah and you're listening to Our Turn Women on Gaming." Of course, replace Sarah with your name. So there's many ways to support us, and we'd appreciate any and all of them. Thanks for listening.
All right, for today's hot topic, Sarah and I are here to talk to you about games with food.
Hope you're not hungry.
That's right. So food has seemingly become a big driver of themes lately. There seems to be a lot of games coming out that center around food. A game that I played a time or two, which is why it's not high on my list, is Sushi Go.
Yep.
And then they came out with Sushi Go Party.
Yep.
What are some others that you can think of that aren't necessarily the ones you picked?
Let's see.
Some honorable mentions that we'll start off with.
Oh, yeah. Honorable mentions. A new one that I've recently played and I hope to review in a future episode is Dairyman. It's from Tasty Minstrel. They've been going to, I believe this one's actually Taiwan. I was about to say Japan, but they do have a lot of new games coming from Japan. But Dairyman is from Taiwan, and it's a cute little game about milking cows and turning it into cheese or ice cream.
Oh, okay.
It's a cute little dice game.
A couple that we have that I've only played a couple of times, which again, why they're honorable mentions, are Gimme the Brain.
Oh, yeah.
And Lord of the Fries. So those are both zombie games.
Yes.
But they're zombie games where the zombies are working in a fast food restaurant.
That's very true.
I don't know that I would want to eat at that restaurant.
Me neither. A game I haven't played yet, Cheeseonomics. I know it's all about cheese, which I love cheese. So I'm looking forward to actually playing that one. And then I guess... not sure how much we're extending food into drinks, but brew crafters and viticulture always come to mind.
Oh, sure.
Popular to make games about drinking, or in this case, making, because both of them are about making the alcohol and the process that goes into it.
Now, here's a question for you. You just mentioned one about beer, and you mentioned one about wine.
Yep.
Are there any about mixed drinks?
I don't think so. I think I've seen a variety of ice cream ones. Like there's a new one coming out, I want to say from Renegade Games, and something about Sundays. Oh, I just saw this on the internet. It's not coming to me.
Okay.
But I was trying to think if there was like even anything about smoothies or milkshakes. And I want to say there was a game on Kickstarter that had to do with mixing a smoothie or a milkshake, or that's probably the closest I've seen to a mixed drink. I don't think it had alcohol or anything in it, but I want to say it was some sort of blender game.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Now, what I've heard of that, but I've never played, so I can't testify as to what the game's about, is Rum and Bones.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
But I think that's more of a pirate theme than a food theme. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so I picked these games because food is an integral part of the experience of the game.
Yep.
Is that what you did as well?
Pretty much. If one of them revolves around just collecting food, and then the other one is a focus on a restaurant, which is where you make food. So yes, I would say that food is very integral to the theme and what you're doing in the game.
Okay, so why don't you go ahead and start us off?
All right, so the first one I picked is an older game. I have to admit, I haven't played it in a while. It was one of the earlier games that we actually got, and at that time it was actually really hard to get, and I have no idea the availability now. And it's Ristorante Italia. So if I remember correctly, it was an import at the time. I don't remember the European company, but the company who released it here at least was Red Glove. So this was published in 2011, so it's on the older side. I don't know how, like I said, available it is. There's 3 designers. Riccardo Guerra. I am so sorry. I'm not good with Italian names. Giulio Guerrera and Marco Muta.
Okay.
So in this, like I said, is you are running your own Italian restaurant. And I absolutely love Italian food, which is probably what drew me to the game when I saw it. And it was one of our first kind of medium weight strategy games. So that also really pulled me in. And I still love these type of strategy games. Just haven't really had a chance to, again, play it. I own way too many games now. This is a
first world problems.
Yeah, first world problems. This is an economic game. You are trying to run and create and upgrade your restaurant to be better than everybody else. So you have to create a menu. You start out, you have a basic restaurant, but you don't really have a menu, and you're trying to get good recipes, and you're trying to get the ingredients. So it's part expanding and managing a restaurant, and then actually making dishes, getting cooks that have good skills, and just making the best restaurant in the city that you can. So you are actually expanding. I thought this was really neat. This was one of the games that was kind of, when we got it, it was new to me of having this balance. You're buying rooms as well as buying ingredients and getting different recipes, and you're trying to train your cooks. There's even a cooking contest. And there's an interesting balance between the economic part, which is focusing on a menu which provides good revenue, versus a quality strategy where you're trying to get recipes that match to unique wines. You know, like you go to a fancy restaurant, they're like, oh, this dish pairs well with this wine. And I don't know anything about wines, so I'm not even going to try to make anything up. So, you know, you can focus on one or the other or try to go for a balance. Again, there's always a variable setup, so you have to shift with it. And it goes over, you know, it lasts 4 phases, so you've got a set amount of time in which to accomplish this and try to be the best Italian restaurant in the city at the end of the game. The other thing I really liked about it is that it has 2 versions in it. You can do the lighter, what they call more family weight, and then the more advanced, or you play with everything. It's like more complete version, kind of like Agricola has the family version or the full version. So talking about this now, I definitely have to get this back to the table and actually do a full review. From what I remember, I liked it a lot. Will liked it a lot. So I give it a 4 just because I only have this vague recollection because I'm pretty sure I haven't played it at least 3 years. Probably longer. So I remember really liking it, and it's still in our collection. So yeah, check it out. Like I said, I have no idea the availability.
And what's it called again?
Ristorante Italia.
All right. Well, the game that I'm going to talk about, I have talked about on here before, and that is Rocky Road a la mode.
Yeah, nice.
Who doesn't like running after the ice cream man, huh?
Yeah. It's always fun.
We have them go through our complex here all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So in Rocky Road a la mode, you are an ice cream truck driver, and you are competing with your fellow ice cream truck drivers to have the most lucrative route. And this game uses the Tokaido style movement where whoever's in the back gets to go, and you get to go until you're no longer in the back. Yeah. So if you want to take, 3 one-space movements and that gets you in the back, you could do that. Or if you want to take 1 big 5-space movement, you can do that too, but you're going to be waiting for other people to take their turns until you get to go again. So I've seen this now in a couple of different games. I've seen it in Tokaido. That was the first place I saw it, which is why I call it the Tokaido style movement.
Right.
I've seen it in Steampunk Rally, and I've seen it in Red November.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the neat things is the ice cream trucks can stack on top of one another. So the pieces are cut in such a way that the ice cream trucks can stack on top of one another. And you draw a hand of cards, and then you are trying to either meet customer orders or earn enough tokens so that you can grab some extra victory point tokens. And you play, if I remember correctly, you play for 3 rounds and then you score.
Nice.
So it's a really quick game. It plays 2 to 4 players in about 15 to 30 minutes. So it's a nice, quick little filler game, but there's also some meat to it. There's some strategy to it. I remember the first time I played it, I went, wow, this is really neat. Now I see what all the fuss about it is, because it was a big deal on Kickstarter for the time that it was on there. But I actually bought it at Conquest Sac last year.
Nice.
This year. And I couldn't get it out of my head. I played it as a demo in the vendor room, and then I came back the next day and I bought it because I couldn't get this game out of my head. It was just so much fun. And so I give this game a 5.
Nice.
It's one of those that will be in my collection for a long time. It's a fantastic game to play with both gamers and non-gamers. This is a theme and a game that you could introduce to younger gamers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say probably 9 or 10 and up. So I'm looking forward to introducing this to my young friend Thomas, because he's 9, and I think he could very easily play this and identify with the theme. So, that's Rocky Road a la mode. I give it a 5.
Yep. And that one, again, if you didn't want ice cream before you started playing, you probably will afterwards. And that's kind of the same with the game I'm going to talk about, which is Go Nuts for Donut. It's about trying to collect the most tasty donuts you can. And every time I take this to work and we play it, people are like, why didn't you bring donuts? And I'm like, I'm not made of money. If you want some donuts, you can bring some.
Just give them a heads up next time. Tomorrow I'm bringing Go Nuts for Donuts, so you bring in the donuts, okay?
Yes, I have to remember that. Yeah. So this one is often compared to Sushi Go because it is kind of a set collection drafting game, but how it's drafted is different. First of all, the designer is Zachary Eagle, published in partnership between Daily Magic Games and GameRight this year. And I previously rated it a 4, and I still say it's a really solid game. So you shuffle the deck of cards according to the number of players. So the way the cards are divided is they're color-coded backs for the number of players. And there's a little series of dots, which also indicate, so if you're playing 2 players, you only put in the ones with 2 dots. If you're playing with 4 players, you put in all the cards with 2 dots, 3 dots, and 4 dots, and you just shuffle everything up. And you're going to lay out a row equal to the number of players plus 1. And everybody actually has little cards that have the same number. So if you're playing 4 players, you're going to have numbers 1 through 5. So 5 cards, let's say it's a 4-player game. 5 cards are put out face up. Everybody looks at the donuts. They're going to put one of their cards, the number cards, face down. Everyone reveals at the same time. And you start with the number 1. And if only one person wants that donut, they get it. If it has an action, you do it right away. Otherwise, it just gets added to their collection. But if 2 or more players want the same donut, it gets discarded. Nobody gets it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you have this kind of, it was not quite push your luck, but you're trying to deduce what the other players are going for. But here's the neat thing. You can either purposely try to take a card so they don't get it. Because like if they're getting a set that needs like 5 cards to get like a lot of points and they've got 4, you might want to, if there's nothing good in the row for you, deny them that card. So there's a little bit of a take that aspect in the collection of donuts or denial of donuts in that way. Otherwise, it's like Sushi Go, different donuts score different ways. Like I said, there's the set or yeah, it's just different. There's a lot of different ways. I do like the variety in the donuts. The downside is it's not a great 2-player game because you're using the same types of donuts every single game, and there's just not a lot of variety there. So this game is definitely better at the higher player counts because you get to play more donuts. Or if you're playing a 2-player game, just play with all the cards for 3 players and you just play a longer game. That works too. So, yeah, it's a fun little game. That's why I still rate it a 4. It's solid. It's out there. It's available. If you don't like sushi, maybe you'll like Go Nuts for Donuts. Oh, the other reason why I like this a bit more than Sushi Go, when playing with Will, this is easier because everything is face up. And with Sushi Go, you're drafting from a hand of cards that takes more toll on his vision, where here he can keep his numbered cards in order so that he knows that the 3 is the 3rd card, stuff like that. And I just read him what the different donuts do. And so drafting from an open face-up pool is always, better for those with vision disabilities than doing a closed hand of information.
Okay. So that's Go Nuts for Donuts.
Yep.
If you have a big sweet tooth, you might want to avoid this game if you're trying to watch your figure.
That's a good point. Very good point.
All right. And the final game that we're going to talk about is my second favorite game of all time right now. And that is Unfair. Because who can go to the fair without buying fair food?
Oh, lots of greasy, unhealthy, tasty food.
Last time I was at the California State Fair, they actually had a booth that was actually pretty healthy.
Oh.
And it was actually a Greek Mediterranean booth. And it had non-fried food, which was really good because we were trying to eat healthier at the time. So, but in Unfair, you're building an amusement park, and not all, but so many of the blueprint cards require that you have a food outlet of some sort. It could be a restaurant. It could be a fast food joint. It could be, a taco stand or something. There are different types of food outlets that you can build in your park. Yep. And some of them are very specific on what kind of food outlet is required, and others just say a food outlet with this kind of upgrade. Yep. And as long as you have that, you get to score it.
Yeah.
So, and who doesn't love fair food?
Well,
at least once in a while.
Once in a while, and maybe not the day after.
Yeah, maybe you won't like it the day after. But, food is not the big theme in this, but it does come up because you're trying to build a restaurant or a fast food outlet, and you also have employees that are food related. There's the cotton candy vendor.
Oh yeah.
And there's 2 or 3 employees that are all food related. And it's my second favorite game of all time right now. So, I can mention that and not mention the other one and leave Mark in a conundrum at the end of the show. So when he does the count of the dreaded word. So, but yes, I highly recommend Unfair. I give it a 5. It was designed by Joel Finch and published by Good Games Publishing this year. It's a brand new game. If you haven't had a chance to play Unfair yet, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and you'll be wanting some fair food by the time you're done.
Oh, for sure.
So we asked this question on Board Game Geek and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
So let me read off some of the answers we got on Board Game Geek. Several people said Sushi Go.
Yeah.
Kevin and Charlotte and Stephanie all said Sushi Go. So did Jesse. And another one that we both forgot to mention, I don't recall if you've played it or not, Sarah, but Food Chain Magnet.
Oh, doy. Yes, I've only played it once. It's still on the to play again shelf. See, I knew I was forgetting something. I was like, wait, there's another one about building a restaurant. And it's fast food. Why can't I think of it? Yes, Food Chain Magnet.
Uh-huh. Stephanie mentioned that one, and Richard Bright. Hi, guys. They mentioned it. And Charlotte goes, of course, Food Chain Magnet. How could I forget that?
Yeah.
Other ones that have been on here. Oh, Kevin said Sushi Go. Now, if only there were a game about pad thai.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Charlotte mentions Veggie Garden, Happy Pigs, and Kitchen Rush. Stephanie also adds in Just Desserts.
Oh.
But she says, I haven't played a whole lot of games with food. Richard mentions Garden Dice, which is one I own, and I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I've only played it once. Let's see here. He also says, technically, you could say Potion Explosion, because you can drink the potions.
Drink the potions. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I suppose that could count.
Well, then that means you could also count Ghost Love Candy.
Oh, absolutely.
A ghost eating candy. And I absolutely love that game by Danny. So, yes.
Okay. He also adds At the Gates of Loyang and Go Nuts for Donuts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's from Richard Bright. Jesse mentioned Sushi Go and Burger Up. Food Chain Magnet. Competition Kitchen. I hadn't heard of that one. And
neither.
Food Truck Champion. I hadn't heard of that one either.
No. Huh.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of them. And, there's a couple of pizza games, too.
Oh, yeah.
New York Slice.
Yes, New York Slice, yes.
Yeah, I haven't played that one. There's another pizza one that I played, and I'm drawing a blank on what it's called right now. I don't have it anymore.
I think, isn't it the one where you're kind of adding toppings and cutting the pizza or something like that?
Yeah. And I'm drawing a blank on what it's called right now.
Me too.
And I don't have it anymore. Anyway.
Well, on Facebook, we got a couple of different ones. Michael Junker says Morels, the mushrooms. I can never say it right.
Morels.
Morels. Yeah, I'm excited about that one. We do have the base game. Haven't played it all that much, but the expansion's coming soon, and I'm looking forward to how that not improves. I think the game's fine as it is. It's just, it feels like it needs a little bit more engagement.
You just reminded me of another one.
Huh.
Scoville.
And that's one of the ones that Valerie Schrag talked about. Scoville. Yep. David Orange said Wasabi. I've seen it. I don't know anything about it. But there's Wasabi for those who like their spicy. And then Nick Martinelli says Go Nuts for Donuts. Pie Factory, which I got rid of my copy of Pie Factory, but it is a food-themed game. And then, of course, Sushi Go.
There's also Pie Face.
Yes, there is.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. Lots of fun games out there with food, and it's a good thing I ate dinner before we started recording.
I haven't.
Well, then, know what? You're going to go get a bunch of pies and ice cream, right?
No, actually, we have crab for dinner tonight.
Hey!
So, yeah. That's one of my favorite meals, and they had a special on it at the store, so.
Nice.
Anyway, so what are your favorite games to play that are food themed? Let us know on Board Game Geek in the thread for this episode, or on Facebook, or you can also reach out to both of us on Twitter and let us know there. So anyway, we look forward to hearing about what your favorites are.
The Dice Tower Network is a proud supporter of the Jack Vassell Memorial Fund. The board gaming community is kind and generous, and this fund was created to provide financial assistance to members of the board gaming community in their time of need. If your game is turned upside down and you need assistance, please visit jackvassell.org/apply. Find out how we can help.
And now we're getting to the end of the show, and it's time to start wrapping things up and looking ahead to what's on our plates going forward. Sarah, what are you going to be up to in the next week or two?
I've got some Friday night gaming. Woo!
Yay!
Yeah, well, it's been a while. October was a really low gaming month because we were building the Lego Millennium Falcon. Pretty awesome,
Woohoo!
But glad it finally is done. Oh, so over almost 2 months. I think it was closer to 6 weeks. We started towards the beginning of September, finished it at the end of October. Just the building time was like 1 day, 5 hours, and like 23 minutes or something. Just like
You're talking
straight.
like 29 hours. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was like, if you did it in minutes, it was like 1,700 and something minutes, which breaks down to almost 1 minute per piece.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's just straight building time, doesn't include sorting, and obviously it's spread out. I think the longest time we sat at any one point was 2 hours. Anywho, that took up a lot of fun time. Just it was a little overwhelming for me, so I'm glad to be getting back to having friends over. So it's coming up Friday. One of my coworkers and her husband's coming over, and then the following Friday, which is Veterans Day, I'm actually having a different coworker come over for a longer gaming session. So looking forward to that. And then game design meeting, trying to get Haven's Vault still in some shape, form, trying to get it tested, which is always challenging. Trying to figure out where we want to go with that. And then I don't want to steal your thunder too much, but we've got a fun event coming up too, right?
Yes, Conquest Avalon is coming up.
Woo!
And so this was the second convention I ever went to. So there are 2 conventions held every year here in Sacramento. One is Conquest Sac and one is Conquest Avalon. They're put on by the same company. So I am looking forward to that. And our turn is going to be putting on a show at Conquest.
Woo!
So if you are in the Sacramento area the weekend of November 17th, 18th, and 19th, please come by the Crown Plaza Hotel in Sacramento and come to our show on Saturday the 18th. We will have more information in the show notes. We're going to do a regular episode, but we're going to have a panel discussion, and we may be giving away some small prizes for participation or something else. We're still working out all the final details. But the big piece of equipment that we needed to buy in order to pull this off came in. So
Yay.
I'm happy it's here. And that's a mixer soundboard. So yeah, we have one of those. Yeah, so that's exciting.
Definitely.
Actually, I'm in a life coach program, and at the beginning of the year, my life coach said, I want you to put on a show at a convention this year.
Hey.
And I went, gulp. Okay. And so that's when I threw the idea out to you, Sarah, and we've kind of been working on it and signed up for it. And so now it's actually almost here.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Oh my God.
Yeah, but it's going to be fun.
People.
I hope.
Well, that's true. I hope.
We may be doing it in front of an empty room. Who knows? But I've had a few people tell me that they're planning to attend, so that's encouraging. Good. So
that is encouraging.
Anyway, but if you're going to be there, please let us know either on Facebook or in the Guild or on Twitter. Speaking of which, Sarah, how do people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you online?
Mostly it's going to be Twitter. I'm at EurogamerGirl. Not so much on Board Game Geek anymore, but I'm trying to make more time. And that's Silva Shadow, SILVASHADO. I also run the Our Turn Podcast Facebook page. So if you post comments on any of our posts, I'm usually the one to respond. Yeah.
All right. And you can reach me via Twitter. I run the @OurTurnPodcast account. And I also have my own personal account, which is @Cathy's Brain, and Cathy is spelled with a C. And I also am the guild master in our guild on Board Game Geek, which is guild number 2600. And you can find links to all of these things in the show notes, which our show notes for this episode are ourturnpodcast.com/episode 53. All right. So on behalf of the entire Our Turn podcast team, that was our turn.
Now it's yours.
Thank you for listening. This episode was recorded on November 2nd, 2017, and is written and produced by Cathy Ford and Sarah Reed with assistance from Kathleen Mercury and Mark Ford. Next time, we'll discuss the best card art in games. We want and encourage your questions, comments, and feedback. Please call 916-426-2873 and leave us a short voicemail or send an email to feedback@ourturnpodcast.com. Our theme music was composed by Adriana Crickle. Incidental music was provided by Ben Sound. Please check out our show notes to learn more about these talented artists. The material in this episode is copyrighted under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives 4.0 International License. If you want to learn more about the games discussed in this episode, please visit our website at ourturnpodcast.com/episode 53. You can find a list of the games along with links to their listing on BoardGameGeek.com. We are proud members of the Dice Tower Network. You can find out about other shows in the network like Rolling Dice and Taking Names, The Geek All-Stars, or The D6 Generation by going to dicetowernetwork.com. Thank you for your support. If you like what you heard, please tell your friends about us.
The space-time continuum you have reached is disconnected and there is no referral. Please check your Firefly count and try your call again. Thank you.